Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melisa Caprio.
Hello and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave. How are you guys doing? I hope everybody's doing well. We're getting ready to go into summer. It's June already. June's a really busy month. For me, it's my birthday month, and it's practically half my family's birthday. We're all June. My mom is actually next Wednesday. I got 2 cousins, my brother-in-law, my nephew. So June is like Christmas time around here. So I hope you guys are doing good. I'm doing good this June. I have a great guest today, author Kac Young, and we're going to talk about her latest book, Living the Faery Life, a guide to connecting with the magic, power, and joy of the Enchanted Realm. And I can't wait to learn more about these fairies. So stay tuned for that. She'll be out in just a couple of minutes. As you guys know who listen to me all the time, I always share a Magic Monday message and its affirmation. And this week's the affirmation is, it's good for the soul. So each week I take a photograph of a manifesting postcard and focus on the affirmation that's on the postcard. And like I said, this week's the affirmation is, it's good for the soul. And so that, of course, makes me think, what do you do on a daily basis that is good for your soul? Is it meditation? Is it prayer, writing, art, creating? It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you find time to incorporate it into your life on a daily basis, if you can. Mine is anything related to creativity, whether it's photographing, writing, editing, decorating, or curating. I try to do at least some type of creating every day. It makes me happy, and it's very nurturing to my soul. It's something I greatly enjoy. Reading also does my soul good. When I start a new book, I really get into it. It can take me on a wonderful adventure to anywhere in the world, and I love that. I find that I can lose myself easily, especially in both good nonfiction or fiction, and it's very soul-fulfilling. So I ask you, what is yours? And if you know what it is, are you doing it? Or are you putting it off because you have all these other responsibilities that you need to take care of? So you tell yourself that you will get to it another day. Maybe it's just taking a walk in nature where you can have some breathing room and ground yourself, where you can get quiet and reflect. We need to take these moments for our own energetic well-being. The world is moving very fast, and many times things are coming at us all at once, and it can be overwhelming and stress us out. I know I can get easily stressed when too many things come at me at once, and I need to take a few moments for myself. I think we need to really take care of ourselves and our needs, and that is also good for the soul. Nurturing yourself is very important. So on your to-do list, don't forget to put yourself. Make sure you put your name on your to-do list. Many times we put ourselves last. Try putting yourself first for a while and see how that feels. If you want to see the images of my Magic Monday message postcards with their affirmations, you can go to my website, Postcards to the Universe, and I share them each week on all my social media platforms. So if you're interested in doing inner work exercises and reading people's incredible journeys of transformation, inspiration, and manifesting, you can check out my book, Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. You can find that online or your favorite bookstore. And like I said, everything's on my social media, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, so you can join me there. And if you're interested in joining a really cool Facebook group, I started one last year called Postcards of Love, and we share inspirational messages, art, photographs, and beautiful stories, things that make us feel good. So please stop on by. Okay, Next week, I'm going to share insights on what it means to live our lives following our heart. We all want to be able to follow our hearts. The problem is, for many of us, we have no idea what that means. Yes, we know who we love and we know who we do not. That's easy. I mean, following our hearts in our life by living the way we really want. Many of us have lost touch with our own hearts and think we don't have the time to even imagine following our hearts, and it's time to change that. So next week's just going to be little old me, and so we're going to be talking about that. Well, I'm going to be talking about that. All right. I'm super excited to talk to my guest today. She was supposed to be on my show in March, but I had to reschedule because I wasn't feeling well. So she was gracious enough to come back today, and I really appreciate it. So let me tell you a little bit about my guest. Kac Young is the author of 24 books, including her latest book, Living the Faery Life, a guide to connecting with the magic, power, and joy of the Enchanted Realm. Kac has a PhD in natural health and a doctorate in naturopathy. Clients come to her for advice on health, nutrition, and spiritual well-being. She helps people manage weight control, smoking cessation, behavior modification, stress reduction, past life regression, and phobia management. She teaches workshops and classes in metaphysics, including crystal healing, essential oils, Bach Flowers, pendulum energy, moon energies, and Feng Shui. Kac travels the globe experiencing the energies of international sacred sites and working with advanced masters from many traditions. And if you want to find out more about her and all of her works, you can go to her website, www.kacyoung.com. That's KACYOUNG.com. Welcome, Kac. Thanks for being here with me today.
You're welcome. And you know what's really funny is that when we communicate in email, we never quite hear each other speak. So I'll just say that my name rhymes with Jack. So it's Kac.
No, I would, you know what? I am so sorry because I always ask my guests. No, it's true. I always, before we talk, if we don't get a chance to talk first, I always ask my guests, how do you pronounce your name? And I didn't with yours because I never heard Kac before. Never. So it didn't even occur to me, so I apologize. So
no
Kac
apologies
Young.
needed. It gives us an opportunity to deal with this and to look at the reality of what we're dealing with in the world. And so, of course, we make assumptions. That's a real good lesson for all of us to just realize that, you know, we can't do that anymore. We're dealing with a global community, and everybody has a different name. Of course, we have to ask how to pronounce it.
Well, I never heard the name Kac before. That is really a unique name. Were you born with that name, or did you change your name?
It's Celtic, and it comes from Celtic roots. Yeah, and so it is unique. And now I've come across people who have like the initials, you know, Catherine Alice Cooper, you know, so she goes by Kac or something. But yeah, I've never met another Kac as such in my life either. So it is unique, and do not feel bad for one tiny second. It gave us a chance to look at how we live our lives and opportunities to ask questions.
Well, it works anyway for you because you're a unique person, as I was reading your bio about you. So why don't you share a little bit about your background and how you got into your work, what inspired you to get your PhD in natural health and write all these beautiful books that you have.
Well, thank you for your kind words. For 30 years, I worked in television. I worked my way up from being a stage manager and a production assistant into being a producer and a director. And also, a last job I had was head of production and development for Universal Studios Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
So Yeah, it was kind of it was a journey, and on my way up, I was a stage manager for the Cher series at CBS. Now it was after Sonny and Cher, but she had her own series at CBS for 2 seasons, and I was her stage manager, and I was actually the second stage manager, and the first stage manager came in one morning, and it was about 7:30. We were getting the stage ready and our headsets on and all that, preparing for the final rehearsal for the shoot the next day, and he dropped dead in front of me.
Oh my God, that's
and
something! Wow.
Wow. That's something. That's something. Yes. So he was 55 years old, and he had been a dancer, so he was pretty slim, but he kind of took his breaks with cigarettes and Coca-Cola, and he didn't live what, we now know is a healthier life. Okay, so he drops dead in front of me. Now, here's my day. We have Elton John on the show. We have Michael Jackson on the show. We have Chris Christopherson on the show, and I'm the only stage manager. And when you stage manage a show like that, you are running the entire time. You're getting people out of their dressing rooms. And with 2 stage managers, one gets the people out of their dressing rooms and says, "Okay, you've got 5 minutes, and you're on." And then but me and the other stage manager kind of runs the floor and makes sure the cameras are where they're supposed to be, and da-da-da-da. So I had the whole job for the day. And at the end of the day, I literally just fell into my car, and I said, "Oh, my God, I don't think I'm going to see morning. I am so tired. I am so stressed." And I decided on the way home that I needed to make sure that I lived my life in a healthier way so that I didn't drop dead at 55 years old because my heart gave out. That was a day, that was my turning point. So I continued my career, and what we have this little blessing in show business. It's called the hiatus. And every time you shoot and work really hard in production, in series television, you have 8 weeks off, and that's when the writers furiously go to work, and they create the next season. So they're all, they're all working hard, and the production people are either on another show or doing something else or relaxing, because production is demanding. It's in many cases 6-7 days a week, 14 hours a day, blah, blah, blah. So in that hiatus period, I decided to explore other things in life, and that's where I took some classes in nutrition, and I liked that. I took classes in becoming a hypnotherapist. So throughout my years of these little hiatus breaks of 8 weeks each, I managed to, in about 12 years, get 3 doctorates. So it really has served me well, because when you do that kind of work, and it's intense, and a lot of it was distance learning and correspondence. Sometimes for the hypnotherapy, I had to do clinicals. But I became very aware of other things. It brought me into Bach Flowers, for example. It brought me into crystals. It brought me into essential oils. And so I touched on all these areas, and then I decided that the best way to become an expert was to really use your time off and study. So that's what I've done all my life. I've studied something when I haven't been working. And then after a while, I saw the interrelation of all of these things, that they all fit together in a holistic blend of self-help, self-care, and I realized that I needed to write about this. So if someone was intrigued with, let's just say, essential oils, that I would do the scholarly work for them. I always include science with every single book, because so many people are out there selling essential oils like Tupperware Party, and they have a very, very scant education in the essential oils, and they can be dangerous. They can be harmful. They can kill your pets if you're not careful with them.
Right.
And I have seen many clients come to me and say, what can I do about this burn on my skin? And I'll say, what happened? And they basically said, well, I put some bergamot on, and then I went out to the beach, and, it burned my skin. Well, right, because that's a phototoxic oil. So there are things in life that I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to learn the entire subject correctly so they can use things wisely and to their own benefit and the benefit of their family. So my books, I decided to set out on a mission to really write books that would help people that I felt blessed in my life for having the time and the opportunity to study and learn all these subjects, that my gift was to share all of this. So that's what my books are, including the most recent one, Living the Faery Life.
Right. And when did the Living the Faery Life come out? In 2020?
It came out this year. It came out February 8th, 2021. Right. And
Yeah, so, and I want to, it's interesting, and I don't want to dive too much into it because we're going to, in just about 1 minute, we're going to jump and take our first break. But I'm listening to what you're telling me, and it's so interesting, and I'm just getting into learning more about essential oils and crystals and really what the energy behind them is and all that stuff. And I'm so curious to know how you went from essential oils and natural health and all of these things and pendulum energy to fairies. Like, where did the fairies come from? Because that's what your new book is about. So can you give us a quick how you made that leap, and then we'll dive in after the break?
Yes, I pitched another book titled to a publisher called Mango, and the publisher, Brenda Knight, said, well, I don't want that book, but I do want a book about fairies. Can you write about fairies? So I'm going to tell your listeners to hang in there, come right back, and you'll learn the story.
Yep, this is a perfect time to take a break. Okay, you guys, stay tuned, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
The rainbow is God's promise of hope for you and me. And though the clouds hang heavy and the sun we cannot see, we know above the dark clouds that fill the stormy sky, hope's rainbow will come shining through when the clouds have drifted by. Teresa Caprio is the president and founder of Rainbow Guardian Inc., a nonprofit 501c3 serving the intellectually challenged/developmentally disabled, including autism. Teresa started the foundation in 1995 so she could help make a better life for her intellectually challenged daughter. Her dream is that the Rainbow Guardian will provide the necessary tools and education to help the public understand the special needs population, because it's often discarded in mainstream society. To find out more or make a donation in support, please go to www.rainbowguardian.org. Rainbow Guardian's special mission is to see these unique people live a happy, full life and have a future of liberty and equality.
Welcome back. So today I have author Kac Young here with her latest book, Living the Faery Life, A Guide to Connecting with Magic, Power, and Joy of the Enchanted Realm. Okay, so if you were listening before the break, so Kac, you pitched another idea, and we have the same publisher, actually. I love Brenda. She's so great. So she said, I want your fairy book. That's what she told you.
She said, I need a fairy book. Can you write a fairy book?
And obviously you said yes, right? So how did you know you could do that, though?
Well, it was, being in television for so long, we have this kind of hidden secret password, really, kind of, and we always say yes. If somebody says, can you ride a horse to get the job, you always say, sure, and then you go out and take lessons to learn. So I figured, all right, I can write a fairy book. I've written 20-some books. Why can't I do this? Sure, Brenda, I'm happy to. So then when I sat down to write the fairy book, I realized all the times that I have been living with fairies. My Celtic grandmother used to believe in fairies, and I heard all the lore and the fairy stuff. And from the Irish point of view, we all believe that they came from a group called the Shining Ones, or the Tuatha Dé Danann. And that group of people lost the third battle to the Malaysians way back when, and they weren't banned from their land, Ireland. They were just told, well, you've lost the war, so now you have to live underground. So that's where all the fairy mounds and all the fairy lore comes from, is that story, myth, and I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's just passed down truth. But anyway, the Tuatha Dé Danann, and called the Shining Ones, had the ability to be magical. They could transform themselves. The Malaysians also had some magical qualities. So now you have a group that have conquered. The Malaysians came from the northern coast of Spain. And so you had magic above the land and magic underground. So, of course, the fairies would come out at night, wouldn't they? The Shining Ones would come out at night. And then people began to really respect the land. So in my book, Living the Faery Life, I sat down to write this book, and I thought to myself, what am I going to write about? The fairies took over. And when I say that, I mean it. I did not stop writing for 4 weeks. And there was my book. I really said I was the typist, the fairies were the writers, because I had some experiences in my life that, I thought I had a poltergeist, for example, when I lived in Hollywood in the 70s and 80s. And I thought they were poltergeists. And when I moved apartments, they moved with me. So I know, and I had the parapsychology department from Irvine, UC Irvine, involved, and they even came to my place and with their little meters, and they tested things. And so it ended up to be a fairy presence. And I've even had a meeting with the fairies. I had to have a meeting with them because they're playful. They do things, and it's human nature to put blame on things. And we like to say, find excuses and put blame on things. Of course, not us, because we're evolved. However, most humans, and we find a scapegoat for our actions or our behaviors or our fears. And so one of the things we do is say, we blame the fairy world, when in fact, the fairies have nothing to do with it, because fairies we'll just say what they aren't. They aren't Tinkerbell. They aren't what Walt Disney put on the screen. They are supernatural beings who are connected to the energies of the planet, nature, stars, and the domains under the earth. So they are in the sky, in the land, in the trees, on the earth, and under the earth. So in my book, they clarified for all of us the three worlds, who they are, how they fit in, and what they really are. And the interesting thing is that they actually saved my house from a fire. And as I look back on why, I had a fairy garden in the backyard. I've always had a fairy garden, and I have 12 little stones in a circle. It's just something my grandmother taught me, and I always plant the plants that fairies like. Again, this is something I grew up with. So after we had the Thomas fire that burned down the entire neighborhood except my house, it burned the upper part of the orchard that's on the hillside above me, but it stopped at the fairy garden. So
that's unbelievable. That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, I don't want to forget to ask you. I don't want this question to leave my head. So as you're writing the book, and you're saying the fairies actually wrote the book, and you were just the typist, are you getting messages in your mind's eye, like it's coming to you, and you know it's coming not from you, but to you from the fairies, or are you actually seeing them as you're getting the messages that you wrote in the book?
I'm not seeing them per se. I am feeling them. I am feeling them. Now, I have seen them play in the backyard. I have seen them outside. But as I'm sitting at the table, and I chose to sit at my glass dining room table right next to the fairy garden. I chose to sit there. And my dogs, my cats, everybody was around me. It was like this amazing thing, like all of us were under this kind of this blessed spell. It was incredible. And literally, I would sit down in the morning after breakfast. I'd take a little break for lunch, and then I would finish writing for the next 4 or 5 hours in the afternoon. And it was just stories, and this is what we want to say. And then I would say, okay, so then I would look something up, or I would look to another book, and I'd see, and then somehow I would be told, no, that's not right. And every time I would do something right, they wanted everything incorporated. They wanted essential oils, they wanted crystals, they wanted kind of everything that I know incorporated. And I would ask them, okay, so is this the correct list? Yes or no? You know, it was really fun.
That sounds like it sounds like a fun adventure. So you were talking about how your house was the only one that was spared from this fire in your neighborhood. Did they tell you why? Was there a reason that they did that, or?
No, I don't know the reason.
You didn't know the reason.
No, I don't know the specific reason, other than the fact that it's amazing to talk about, that it was attributed to the fairy garden, not just by me, but by my neighbors as well. And and there's still building going on. The Thomas fire was in December 4th, 2017. And that my neighbor above us, above where the area that burned, is just now building. So it's still going on. But the fairy garden thrives. And in it are, little creatures and little wildlife, and it's a very small area, but it's definitely attributed to them. But they for whatever reason, they wanted to do that, I guess, so that I could have a real concrete example to talk about or to write about in the book. I think
Sure.
they wanted it to be no nonsense. This is the power that we have. When you connect with us, when you allow us in, this is how we can help mankind. And when we go to that level, when we allow them in, or other teachers, angels, masters, whatever you prefer, when we let them in, then we will make the human race move further, faster, and with more grace. I think the fairies teach us grace. They teach us levity. They teach us to laugh. They teach us to not be caught up so much in the to-dos, but in what you were talking about, in experiencing, in allowing, in having fun, in getting rid of all the have-tos, and to put exactly what you said. What are your values? What do you enjoy? What? And the fairies will be with you when you do your show on Coming from the Heart, because that's what they're all about. It's all about meaning and value and fun and joy. And that's the core that they want to share with everybody on this earth.
I love that. And, you're not the only one who's been talking about fairies. And I'm seeing it more and more. We're seeing it in shows, right? We're seeing it in more books and fiction books and true books like your book. And is it because the fairies now are feeling more comfortable revealing themselves again to us, and they sort of do it in small ways? I have a friend who talks about dragons in that way, that the dragons are coming back because they're feeling comfortable to sort of show themselves again to us. Is that what the fairies are doing?
Well, I think it's more important than that. I think that they see the earth at a crossroads. And we're either going to destroy ourselves because of the greed and the selfishness and the narcissism that's out there, or we're going to heal ourselves. And I think these supernatural beings, in whatever shape and form they are, cannot, in their own moral code, sit by and watch us immolate. They want, they love human beings. We can do things that they can't. We have different powers. They have different powers. So it's learning how to invite them in and live with them, which is a metaphor for us all getting along and appreciating everybody's qualities and talents, even if they don't look like us, even if they don't dress like us or sound like us. It's about us being humble enough to learn their language, to learn what's important to them, to learn their code of ethics, and then to be able to live compatibly with it. And it sounds easy, it's not, but we have help from beyond to accomplish all of that. We have the help. And
That's
I think
good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, and that's what I think the point of my book is. Reach out, and that's why I list in here the rules of fairies. They have very definite rules of conduct, behavior, thinking, and it's about us saying, I'd like to have some of that magic in my life. What do I have to do? Well, you have to follow this code. It's very old-fashioned. Remember, they're thousands of years old, and they don't speak roughly. They are gentle. They wouldn't listen to heavy metal music or even hip-hop or rap. They don't swear. They don't like any of that. They want gentle, loving kindness. And, they will offer us things. They will tempt us with food and drink, but we graciously do not accept because they are beings from another realm, and what is delicious and a libation to them is poisonous to us. So we have to to realize that there are limits, that we are dealing with another realm. And that's what they wanted to make clear in this book. You know, I wrote the rules down, and some they asked me to throw out, or, you know, some just weren't working. Or for example, they would do things like they would mess up the table that I was writing in, and I couldn't copy it, or I couldn't do something, and I'd say, okay, fine. Well, we're just going to delete that. Then all of a sudden, I was able to copy that page. I mean, it was things like that you have to be aware of and open your mind to, okay, there's got to be a reason for this. What is the reason that's above just me being irritated in the moment, you know? It was really...
So when you say rules, you mean for us to connect with them, right? The rules for us to connect with them. Okay. All right. If we want to,
They have rules of conduct, okay? For example, do not invade their privacy. Do not disturb their garden. Don't dance with them because they will trap you. That's because fairy music and fairy dance are ritualistic, and they are meant to mesmerize, like the Sufi dancers, right? But you can't just sort of like enter into that and go, waha, let's boogie. No, you have to respect that is their ritual and their dance. And things like always keep your promises to fairies. If you promise the fairies that you're going to bring them a treat or place or sing a song for them, then don't not do that, because it breaks their hearts and it shatters their trust in you. You know, and you don't talk about your dealings with fairies. You know, I'm not telling you a whole lot of stuff because I can't tell you how the fairies really did a lot of things for me because I am bound not to. They know I have to promote the book, but there are certain things that I will, you know, that I'm bound, I'm honor bound not to tell you. But
that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I'm really curious because I have tons of questions in front of me. Like, I have so many. I want to talk about maybe some of the physicalities of the fairies and what they do, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and, you know, and what they look like and the languages. So I want to take my break now with you, because that way when we come back, we can like really dive into some details about these fairies. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
Coping-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. I have author Kac Young here in her latest book, Living the Faery Life. Okay, we're going to dive right in. So what do they look like? Are they small? Are they a different size? And are there a bunch of different types? So why don't we start there?
Yes, all of the above. Fairies can shapeshift, so they can be anything you want. I'll give an example. If any of your listeners have seen the series American Gods, it's by Neil Gaiman. And on that show, he has Mad Sweeney, who is a very tall, 6'2", red-headed fairy who it is goofy and sloppy and clumsy and drinks way too much and is not what you'd think a fairy would be, and yet he can manifest gold coins out of his hand all the time. There's also a jinn, which is the Arab version of a fairy. They have two kinds of fairy, a jinn and a djinn, and the djinn is the negative fairy. He's the one who is kind of, a devil. So fairies all over the world look and manifest themselves differently. You're going to see fairies in Sweden that show up differently than fairies in, let's say, South America. That's just because it's a cultural thing. Remember, they're 1,500, they're like 5,000 years old, fairies, that we have written knowledge that they were considered or talked about in their various different cultures throughout the manuscripts around the world. So they're at least that old. And what do they look like? They look like different things to different people. They are not Tinkerbell. They do not. I mean, some of them may have wings. Some people in Ireland have said that they have seen them with little wings, and I don't know. They certainly, bees can't fly either because they're aerodynamically ill-equipped to be able to fly, and yet they do. So fairies could fly if they wanted to. They're going to show up in different ways according to how the person's radar works.
Now, are there human fairies?
There are humans that have crossbred with fairies in the past. It isn't a very good idea. It is not successful. They don't share the DNA in the genetic pool that works for a successful offspring. So there are not human fairies, as we would say, and yet a fairy can take on a human body if they need to for a while. They cannot live and exist as a human all of its life, though, no.
Okay, that's so interesting. I know some people that I've seen that they'll be like, they remind me of a fairy. They'll have like fairy-like features. Yeah. So I don't know if that's just a human thing or if that's like they're somehow connected to the fairies. I don't know, but I have seen a couple of girls, young women young adolescent girls who have that fairy. They look like little fairies. Yeah, there's just something about them.
Well, there are generations of people that have manifested, the indigo people, the crystal people. There are people that have come that are, connected with other worlds, that have come onto this planet with knowledge and with experience in a reincarnated fashion kind of like as a group, with a decision has been made before they come back that they will come back as a group and they will have these certain qualities and they will try to make change and move the planet forward spiritually. And that's what their commitment was before they incarnated into this lifetime. That's why we have to be very careful who we're dealing with, because they have different sensitivities. And,
that's what I was going to ask you. What offends a fairy and what pleases a fairy?
Well, that's all in the book. It takes up a whole chapter. But what pleases a fairy is laughter, and they can endlessly watch a squirrel trying to get up a pole and think it is absolutely hilarious. They think it's very funny when a carrot comes out of the ground and it has 2 prongs to it. They like the silly, silly things. I don't know if you've ever seen Japanese game shows, but the Japanese game show
I haven't.
It's very fairy-like because they are, they enjoy the silliness of life and they revel in it. And it's just fun. Sometimes people in the West are, that's, we're too sophisticated for that. But now even our game shows are going back to sort of the ridiculous, which is making people laugh. So the fairies will show up where they are needed and as the form that is required to get the message across to people if they're open. See, we can go either way right now. That's what's so beautiful about this time, not only with climate change, but also with the way that we're handling our lives. We can go back into the dark ages really quickly and let this planet explode, or we can get really serious really quickly and ask for help from these other realms and change the way we've done things and really make it compatible for all living things, animals, plants, humans, and the other beings. If we incorporate beings from the other realms into our lives, now we're living. Now we're doing what we're supposed to do as humans.
That's a great segue, because I actually was going to ask you, how do I meet one? And if I do, how can I talk to a fairy? And what should I say to a fairy? For people listening, who are really intrigued. I mean, because the people that listen to my show and the kinds of show here on OMTimes Radio are open to this kind of stuff, right? That's why they come here and listen to our shows. So yeah, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's really interested in connecting with the fairies.
Well, I'll give you 2 answers to that. Is that, the fairies, and I went to great lengths to explain that throughout the book. So the book is not expensive. It's the manual for you to connect with fairies and bring them into your life. And I'll disclaim that I don't make much money from a book sale. No authors make money on books these days unless you are a bestseller. Right. Yeah, and you get a huge advance. But, most of us, we don't. You're an author, so we don't make any money.
I know.
So this isn't about greasing my palms or increasing my pocketbook. This is about get this book, read it, bring the fairies into your life, and I tell you how to do that. And now I'll answer your question. You can start by changing your mind about fairies. You can change your mind and know that they are spiritual beings who are connected to the energies of the planet, nature, stars, and the domains under the earth. That's who they are. That's what they do. You can plant your garden with plants that attract them. You can plant trees that they live in, that they love. You can use essential oils that they also like and find intriguing. You can do rituals for fairies to attract them. You can grow and ingest certain herbs that fairies love. You can create a life that says, welcome to my world, fairies. I want to make things in my life as welcoming as I can for you so that you feel at home. I went to the extreme of making little fairy furniture out of popsicle sticks, and I thought, gee, how am I going to learn how to do this? Well, everything is on YouTube, so I just Googled, fairy furniture, and there it told me how to make little things. Well, it was really cute until there was a rainstorm because I didn't use the right kind of glue, and then everything became just a pile of sticks, but I left them there because the fairies would laugh.
That's so cute. We were talking about planting the fairy plants. So what are just a couple of plants that we could plant?
All right, let me give you quickly 12 flowering plants. They love bee balm. They love bluebells, fuchsia, honeysuckle, marigold, nasturtiums, pansies, primrose, purple foxglove, roses, snapdragons, and violets.
I love all those too. That's so cool. So you have all those in your garden, or a lot of those in your garden?
I do, and also think about what is a flower that I can play with. So remember, fairies love to play. So a snapdragon, what? You can pinch its sides and its little mouth opens up, right? It becomes a puppet, okay? Foxglove, dangerous to humans because it contains digitalis, and consuming too much of that can give you a heart attack. But they take the blossoms, turn them upside down, and use them as little drinking goblets. So think of flowers that are fun. Pansies. Oh, my God. They have little faces on them so the fairies can talk to the pansies and dance around them. Definitely take 12 stones. It can be any size, but I have just a small one. My stones are about an inch. And just put 12 stones around. That represents the 12 months of the year and the Celtic calendar, which is what they go by. They have their holidays that they celebrate. Oh, and that's another thing. Celebrate holidays with them. And that's in the book as well, but they are Beltane and Imbolc and Samhain. And they love those kinds of holidays, and they dance, and they love little festival things. I mean, I have little lights out there in the fairy garden so that at nighttime they can sit on the lights and they can dance and they can play around as well. And I have a tree that they love, and, just little silly things. What I tell people to do is if you have a tree in your front yard, go out and put little fairy, put some crystals, put some little flowers, plant some flowers out there, designate it as a fairy garden, make a little sign and say, welcome fairies. And you will see the kids in the neighborhood love this. They'll leave notes for the fairies. They will bring things for the fairies. They'll paint rocks. The things to do is to make little things as magical as possible. Transform anything you have around your house into something that is colorful and bright and that the fairies will like.
I love that. Yeah, I can see kids loving that kind of stuff because it really is so magical, right? So if you're bringing treats, what do fairies eat? What we eat or different?
Well, a lot of people think, you should leave them sugary things and honey.
Right. But you would think that you would naturally go there, but you're saying that's not where you should go then, I guess.
Well, make sure that the treats are natural. Remember, they are, 5,000 years old. I mean, their culture goes back 5,000 years.
Right, we have processed sugar and stuff. You're right. Yeah, I gotcha.
Right.
That makes sense.
So if you want to leave them a cookie, for example, make it out of oats, make it out of honey, make it out of dates. Make something that is natural for them. And if you want to leave a little thimble full of honey, do that. Use things that do not have chemicals or fluoride or anything in that. You want to leave them some juice? Absolutely. Leave them pieces of apple. Leave them apricot. Leave them things that are natural. Leave them with some nuts, unsalted, and just anything that is natural and from the earth. Remember, they are, they are cosmic and from the earth, and they're under the earth. So wherever they dwell, and where do they live? Do they go underground at night? Do they hide in the trees? I mean, there are fairy trees in Ireland that they have farms dedicated to the fairy world. There's a guy that I love everybody to find him. He's on YouTube, and his name is Pat, P-A-T, Noon, N-O-O-N-E. Pat Noon. Google him, and you'll see all about his fairy farm in Galway, Ireland. It's absolutely brilliant, and he gives you updates on what's happening fairy-wise on his farm.
Oh, how fun. Well, we only have like a minute or two left, so is there anything that you think that we need to know about fairies that we haven't talked about?
Fairies are everywhere, and their value at this time in our lives is huge. It's going to take a little bit of self-contemplation. It's going to take a little bit of, cooling your jets, deprogramming from your daily life. Read this book, learn about them, and then bring them into your life. Welcome them, and just learn. First of all, learn all about them. Learn how to talk to them. Learn how to think. Learn all of that. And let the grace of the fairies come into your life, change your heart, change your world, and change our world for the better.
I love that. Yeah, no, I know. It's so magical. It's so fun. Thank you so much, Kac, for being here with me today. I so appreciate getting a chance to talk to you and talking about your book. So please check out Kac Young's book, Living the Faery Life, Guide to Connecting with the Magic, Power, and Joy of the Enchanted Realm. I want to talk to the fairies. Now you got me wanting to talk to the fairies. I'm so excited. Thank you. Anything else for people to find you?
Well, you can find me on my website, www.cac, that's spelled K-A-C, Kitchen Apple Charlie, Kac Young, YOUNG.com. And there's everything there that you can want to know about. And my books are available on Amazon. Everything is available on KDP as well, and some are in bookstores. Living the Fairy Life will change your life and that of your children and the family. So I always tell people, do this as a fireside chat, read it aloud, and let those fairies in.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave, and wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.